Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special reaction video on a Starstruck Odyssey Dimension 20's new show that utilizes the SW5E system. Tegan, great first episode.
Yeah, it was great though. The energy was really cool. And I liked how they kicked it off right in the action. I mean, they kind of got everything going and moving. There was like no awkwardness or none of that kind of. The first sessions can always have some pacing issues, but they kind of get everything just right into the fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're an established, tabletop brand, tabletop company there like Dimension 20, you don't need that initial, my name is so and so, and I'm playing a, XYZ, whatever. You just jump into it, and they still did that stuff that's super cool. A lot of fun to see what they did. Of course, the shout out to ourselves was, still unreal that to hear that. So
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting in the episode, so I was kind of like a little shocked as that came up. It was definitely a little highlight of my day.
yeah, for sure. And I saw that Lou started new with Jimmy Kimmel. He's like the announcer now, so that was pretty cool. It's like the announcer of Jimmy Kimmel gave us a shout out. That's pretty sweet.
For real.
So yeah, so I'm sure. I guess really at this point we should probably mention there's very likely going to be some spoilers in this video. So if for some reason you have not caught episode one, probably want to stop now and come back. Throw this on a bookmark to watch later. But what we do want to do is go through, give us a little bit more reactions from ourselves of what we enjoyed of the show, and then really dive into some of the mechanic side of things from our point of view, Dungeon Jedi Masters and the mechanics and whatnot. Touch on that stuff. So, Tegan, what were your highlights of episode one?
Well, I kind of mentioned one a little bit, but I loved how they kind of did the rolled initiative to start off, kind of with that classic Star Wars starting in space combat. But I liked that portion. But what I loved is how they kind of used the initiative to go through with like kind of the flashback and intros to kind of give you a little bit of perspective on each of the characters and kind of what brought them there and kind of what makes their character them. So that was a really cool way to kick everything off and kind of use time wisely, in my opinion.
Absolutely, it was. I'd have to go back and specifically catch it again, but it was a little bit of, setting up that scene and then roll initiative. It was just crazy. You're like, oh shit, it's going down, and when you see the battle map there with all the enemies and things coming in, like it wasn't just okay. This is a simple one-on-one, kind of session one type adventure. This was real, which was really cool. And as you said, definitely echo on the backstory. Bringing that in was fantastic. It really tied both the present day and past together. Did you have a favorite out of any of those, or any of the characters so far?
Definitely, well, I had two favorites, and I found before even we consulted with them, I found Dimension 20 through not another D&D podcast or NADPod, and I loved Murphy's who was Barry in there. He played like the meathead Barry clones, and it was just hilarious. And I feel like there's gonna be some cool stories coming with that. It was just one of the ones I laughed pretty much the whole way through, and I saw some kind of cool setups going through with him too. And the other one was Gunny, and he's the one that's now a cyborg who had some real rough luck on his first space voyage, and it's like his was kind of a mixture of some humor, but just like some crazy corporate sadness piece that kind of went with it too. So I'm looking forward to seeing both those stories go. But loved everybody, but those are the two that kind of stuck with me after I left. And oh, Gunny was Lou Wilson too, and he did some NADPOD stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely great stories between them two. My If I have to choose a favorite, I think Sundry Sydney, played by Emily, just the roller skating robot kind of Swiss Army wife. I think she said they're called, and just hilarious. That whole story too, going back to the backstory cut with that whole concept and the CEO boardroom and just all that was great. And then in being we'll touch on this more later, I'm sure, but being a gunner, she did great there, and yeah, and then I'd say otherwise just the use of combat that they did. I think they all did very well, especially jumping right into it. It kept the energy up the whole episode, and was really cool to see. So yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed with how quickly everybody kind of, I don't know if there was any behind the scenes pieces, but they all kind of jumped in. They knew the deployments, knew what they could do, and they kind of embraced it pretty well.
Absolutely. That's I would definitely echo that as well. Is they seemed very up to speed with this rule set, which is, it's not super new, but it's still new to even 5e. There's some elements of 5e as we've talked about a lot on the podcast and whatnot. So it's awesome to see that it ran very smoothly for them. So I think we could jump into that element here in the video. Tegan is talking about the use of those mechanics and things like that. So right away they're in this battle for their lives essentially, and they have to deal with that. And so it goes around the room with each deployment. Give us a rundown of the deployments if you want for in the character roles.
Definitely. So they each, there's two that share a deployment, but they've got the major deployments listed. So you've got Skipper, who's played by Zach Oyama, who's the pilot, who's another hilarious one, who's just kind of like the cranky pilot. And he does kind of some cool piloting maneuvers as you go through there. And you see with those clamper ships, he got clamped on a couple times and tried to outmaneuver them, sometimes successfully, sometimes other non-successfully. But then he also did some of the other cool stuff he could do with ships, including like the flybys and things like that, to hopefully kind of buy the crew some space to kind of get away from the huge fleet that Brennan assembled to go after them. Uh, and spoilers, unfortunately, he didn't succeed on that side. But he did some cool stuff and definitely kind of embraced some of the flavor of the deployment. Uh, Outside of him, you've got Barry and then Sundry Sydney, and both of those guys are gunners. They were killing it on that side. A couple misses at first, but Sundry got a cool nat 20 and blew up one of the following ships, and they were using maneuver dice and the power dice, and that's one of the cool things too. They're kind of keeping track and making use of those power dice, which is like one of my favorite features from the new ship or starship styles. They were kind of coordinating it and kind of talking between the table of like, well, can we use it here? Do we want to save it here? And that was just really cool to see, in my opinion.
Yeah, they used that very well. That really stuck out. Utilizing that system, so it worked well. And yeah, I love to just kind of more in the narrative aspect of the show, but the whole Gunner channel thing was hilarious. Just that
That was
whole
funny.
bit was so good.
Uh, Murphy's hilarious, especially when he plays like a meathead type dude. So like, I'm looking forward to seeing that this season.
Yeah,
And then the other positions, so Riva, I forgot what they said her species was, but she's the one that's in the bubble, the water bubble, I should say. So she's the coordinator for the ship. I love their little joke too that they did earlier, where she repeated what Skipper said to the comm screen there with us with the classic Star Trek stuff. But that was fun, and she used the class really well too, using I forgot the name of the feature, but that reaction feature that can allow you to add use a power dice, but add one of your maneuver die to a saving throw or check that somebody's making to help boost it up and hopefully get a good success with it. She used that really well in a couple clutch moments too to help the party out. It's definitely kind of a fun one there, and especially with the revamp. Coordinator before the revamp was a little bit lackluster, but with the new stuff, especially the way she played it, she really kind of came through with it. Uh, Outside of that one, you've got Margaret, who's playing the operator for the deployment, and she got a really cool moment too, where she was on her conference call and used interfere to jam their comms.
that was great. Yeah.
I think she got like pretty much everybody in that radius too. So she came through, jammed their comms by. I think they said that she called the corporate and told them to turn it off for those people, and it was kind of a funny and cool use of the mechanics and flavor for it. So I love that aspect of it.
I think that was when and the Tailspire is what they're using is so cool. And I think when she did that, they showed the visual of like the large orb sphere coming from their ship to represent that area of effect. And it was just like it just kept going and going and like engulfed almost everyone. It was hilarious.
That was sweet. Yeah, Tailspine. That's another cool thing I want to say for this one. That system looks sick. Like, it's definitely a fun system to use. I know some people wanted the minis, but I love just kind of how many cool things they could add in there and the graphics and things that they could place on
Yeah,
there with that
absolutely.
system. It's That was cool. She's running the operator, and then you've got Gunny, who's playing the mechanic, and that's Lou Wilson's character, and he killed it on that side. You got to see some of his the things he can do, like boost the engines. He used that on that turret. Skipper tried to get as far away as they could, and he was able to get a good boost on the engines, and he was able to do some repairs on like the shields and things like that to keep them in the game for a little bit longer. They had some rough luck with some of their dice rolls though, but he definitely played the class right and tried to help them get as much as they could from the ship.
Absolutely, all around, they did amazing with that. And it was super cool to see. I think, you and I were both, mostly DMs, and so we're running the game, and to kind of sit back and see it from this side, and see others play it well. It was very cool to see all that stuff work out. Um, so after, we look at these roles here, and they did well, but yeah, talking about that concept of what the situation they were dealing with, and they got to a point where we just got to get the hell out of here. And so they started, all right, we're going to jump to hyperspace. And I know this is a little bit of a small gripe for yourself, and is the number of calculations required needed there. I think with 10's the default, I believe, for calculating hyperspace there, which I believe they went with that system. And but I think it's still, the tension was there because of that.
For sure.
And just going through that process, I think they assisted each other and helped each other a few times to make some of those roles. But I think that did help lay that landscape of tension throughout the whole episode.
Definitely, and I like too. They kind of showed the feature because with the new starships, you can either use the ship's stats if you want to, or use your own stats at disadvantage. And Lou opted to go with disadvantage because the ship wasn't kind of built for that aspect, and he was going through and make those calculations. So I like how they show that feature off too, and kind of using some of the not lesser known, but kind of not as common fare features too.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if that specifically, but Handy Andy, I think is
That
part
too.
of Sydney's character. I think granting advantage through a feature and is kind of canceling out that disadvantage to help out, so helping that situation. But I don't. Yeah, they never made it to the full jump. But yeah, they tried their best.
They came close, but unfortunately, they had a bad round. I think Brennan crit on him a couple times, and
Yeah,
Shields and Hole got pretty binged up.
definitely some dice luck, and that's another thing too. Is I think right off the bat, Brennan Sarnum I think their shield's pretty depleted.
Yeah, I think they were like 20, or like they were down like below half by far.
Yeah, pretty nuts. So yeah, super cool to see that. Anything else that jumped out for you, Tegan, from kind of the use of the system?
No, I've said it before, but I'll just say it again. Just how impressed I was with how kind of quickly they picked it up, and I don't know if they practiced or anything beforehand, but they kind of flew into like they played the system like for years. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree with that, and very much looking forward to the continued episodes, and see where it goes from there. We'll likely maybe do some more of these videos, maybe not every episode, but touch on them, because I think to touch on how they're utilizing the mechanics. I think getting in some of that kind of ground game, the traditional classes, and see how that gets translated over to their world, to the Starstruck universe too. So be exciting to look at that.
For sure, yeah. I'm looking to see kind of what crazy shenanigans they get up to with the ground game. From what they've kind of posted with the different classes and spread there, it should be pretty fun to see.
Absolutely. So, well, thanks all for stopping by. We hope you're enjoying a Starstruck Odyssey as well, along with us. And as always, thank you for supporting us, the Dungeon Jedi Masters. It was an absolute honor to work with Brennan and the rest of the crew on this project, and now to be able to see, the fruits of that labor. So, a couple things on our end we'll mention before we sign off here. There will be a new Patreon piece, which is coming out which should be out by the time this video goes live on the 18th. But it's going to be first in a series of somewhat of a how-to series for DMs, new and old. But the first one is you meet in a cantina. And we look at that classic trope of bringing together your party, meet in a tavern. Of course, we're in the galaxy. So cantina is more appropriate. And with that, we will, we'll take you through kind of setting that up, building the cantina, populating that with some NPCs and then creating some opportunities, jobs for them. So check that out on our Patreon. And yeah. In addition, if you haven't yet, make sure you've checked out Scattered Choices, our DJM theater radio show actual play. The finale of that went out the other week as well, so you can listen to all of those now on our podcast and also in their own specific playlist on Spotify. So it's been a blast to put together as well. So if you're looking for something different, it's about 45 to an hour each episode, real easy to digest, and it's all just a pure narrative story. We take out all the dice rolls and mechanics, so you just listen to that narration. Still dictated that story, but it's not in there, and pretty cool experience. So, and Tegan, turn over to you for your upcoming Invasion actual play.
Definitely. So by the time, so Tuesday the 25th, I'm holding the session 0 for the invasion storyline. High level overview. It's going to be what if the Yuzon Vong invaded the old Jedi Order. So you've got the Sith, the Jedi clashing in the background, and the party's going to have to hopefully organize the galaxy to defend it from this monstrous Yuzon Vong invaders. So we're picking up session 0 there, going over some of the home rules, quick introduction to the characters, and just going over a bit of the lore for kind of where they are in the galaxy so far. But one of the cool things we're doing too with that, especially with kind of shout out the Starstruck people, we're going to be giving away 3 months of Dropout TV subscriptions. So join me on Tuesday, the 25th at 6:30, and we'll be giving away at the end of the session that subscription, so you can go and watch Starstruck and see Star Wars 5e played by the professionals.
Absolutely, looking forward to that. And where's that going to be hosted at again, Tegan?
Oh, definitely. So that's going to be on my Twitch channel, which is Tegan, Tegan DJM. So you can Google me on that side, and we'll be posting links everywhere eventually. And check us out, subscribe, and kind of see how the players get going in their new story.
Absolutely. Definitely looking forward to that. I think great, especially as we said on the podcast, showing that session 0 will be great to have coming along with the campaign. So anything else to mention?
So a little week after that, so we're doing for our Patreon, we're doing the invasion as a short form for our campaign Patreon. So each year, or the last 2 years I should say, we've done a long form adventure where you kind of put sessions out that you can run with your crew, and this year it's going to kind of loosely follow my invasion campaign. So session 1 will be out that February the 1st, I believe. So keep an eye on that and watch. And my first session that'll be streamed will be the 8th. So check it out on the 8th. And you can kind of see that session played live on the screen too. And then definitely take it to your players, see if it'll be a good fit, and run that for them as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it'd be cool to have that element of the content that we're producing along with the campaign live and see. And then of course, anyone that ends up picking that up, see how you might diverge from what Tegan's players do. So yeah, very cool. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. As always, check us out, dungeonjedimasters.com, for links to all of our content, podcast, YouTube here, our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch channels. And of course, that Patreon to help support the content that we put together and get a little something for yourselves through that custom adventures and whatnot. I appreciate it very much, and we'll see you on the next one. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.